Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Tunes with Sean. And today is a very special episode, a very sad episode, as we mourn and loss the famous rapper DMX, Earl Simmons, has died April 9th, 2021, at the age of 50. Also known as Dark Man X, right? Now, I'm doing this tribute for a lot of reasons. First of all, because this is a all things music channel series, but mostly because I'm a massive fan of DMX. And I know there's a lot of people that come out of the woodwork and they cover things. Listen, I used to listen to DMX every single day. And the only reason why I found out about him passing away, I was one of the first, even before it hit major news articles on Twitter, was because I look him up almost weekly to find out what he's up to, because he's been so MIA for a while. And that's how DMX is. And when I looked him up to find out what he was doing or if the album was coming out that he was working on and what he was up to, it came up that, at the time he was pretty much in a vegetable state, that he was in White Plains Hospital, which is not that far from here. He grew up in Yonkers, which I used to go all the time. I met DMX a few times in person. I seen DMX 2-3 times in concert. I've seen him with the Rough Riders. I saw him, the last time I saw him was in 2000. I actually met him in person during a meet and greet. I hung out with him backstage. A very good friend of mine at the time was visiting from California, and I brought her back a t-shirt. It was weird because we were just having this discussion a few days before he went to the hospital, before he got sick and was dying. And it was just crazy how it all happened. It happened so fast. And I'm still in a state of shock. But DMX is in all my playlists on my phone when I jog. But the sad part of it is that he was part of a dying breed, Rap is so different today. When I was growing up, because I'm almost in my 40s now, it was gangster rap, and there's not many of them left. They're pop rappers now. And he was one of the last few that was, raw, uncut, full-blown, gangster rapper. I mean, you have a few left. You have Jay-Z, you have Eminem. But I mean, back in the day, he was on the top. I have so many memories, but that's what the whole purpose of this podcast is today, this episode. I don't want to dwell on his faults or where he turned wrong in life through the years. And the loss of him and the death. I want to talk about the good stuff, the memories, because a lot of these people are only reporting, half of them don't even know who he is, and half of them are just, getting on the bandwagon about him because he died. I want to talk about the good memories of him that I have, growing up with him, listening to him, meeting him, and being a real fan. And that's what this episode's going to be about. It's going to be a happy episode. It's going to be about a cool memories episode about him and all the good stuff that he did and all the great music that he put out, inspirational music in the hip hop industry, and inspired so many that are still around today. So many people in that era, in that time, came up because of him. I know here in the New York, New Jersey, Yonkers area, it was a big scene. It was big. I mean, you had your Wu-Tang. You had Eminem and Dr. Dre killing it. You had Ja Rule. You had Juvenile. You had rappers like, oh my God. I mean, Mobb Depp. I used to listen to, um, you know, so many rappers. I mean, the whole Rough Riders crew, Eve, um, and Method Man, Redman, Nas, Jizza, RZA, and it was just it was just a great era of rap. There was just so many great rappers, gangster rappers in that era back then. I used to listen to a lot of underground stuff too. I would basically try to listen to as much as I could, the same as I did rock and metal. I would go right from rap to metal, back to rap to whatever, to country. So I tried to listen to it all. And in the rap scene, especially back in the day, gangster rap, there was a lot. There was a lot of stuff to listen to. But I would always go back to DMX. And at one time, there was only very few rap that I would listen to. And it was mostly on rotation. And it was 90% of it was Eminem, which I still listen to every day today. DMX, and, Jay-Z and Wu-Tang. And pretty much that was it. Of course, Tupac and Biggie and all that. But that's what I always had on rotate. And that pretty much lasted me all the way until where I am now, going back. So he was one of the main ones. He was one of the ones that was always on spin, always was on rotation. Here's some memories. Here's some happy memories that I remember growing up with DMX. So in school, I would bring my Walkman, my Discman, with my big ass Sony headphones. Way before Bluetooth, And every day I would bring a new album in, or different album. And we used to have study class. So the teachers would let us go in the back room and get our extra work done. So I'd be listening to my Discman. And I would bring it on the bus and whatnot too. And then during shop class too, in between, our breaks, I would bring in, I remember, and I had my friend Nick, which was another big music fan. He would actually, I used to have a folder, and my friend Nick would draw in my folder, and he was an amazing drawer. And he would draw all band logos and band art. And he drew Korn, Tool, and I remember he drew a big DMX in the inside of the folder. But every day in the morning, he would check my Discman. He would open it up, and he wanted to see what I brought. Life is Peachy from Korn, Devil Without a Cause, Kid Rock, the Slim Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP, early Jay-Z albums, Wu-Tang Forever, the 36 Chambers, Nas, Illmatic, and It's Dark and Hell is Hot, or anything from DMX. X. And most of the time, I always had DMX on. You could hear a blast, and well ahead of its time, I had amazing, amazing Sony headphones. I think I had Koss headphones too, but my Sony headphones had the serious sick bass, and you could hear DMX blasting across the room. And my teacher would always, my study class teacher, his name was Mr. Utter. He would look at me and he would go, calm down, lower the music. I never did. I used to tell him I was, but I never did. I would hire it, actually. And it was funny, too, because the kids in the front row, in front of me, would always, jam to whatever I was listening to, whatever I was in the mood for. Sometimes I would bring more than one disc with me, but I tried not to, because I was always afraid of, we had a big problem with people stealing. One time my gym locker our gym lockers got stolen into, and I lost the original Slipknot CD, the black original Slipknot CD, the first Soulfly album, Obsolete by Fear Factory. And I think It might have even been a DMX CD. Maybe it was X. I don't remember, but anyway, so I would bring at least one CD in a day, and I would jam that throughout the day, and then the following day I would bring something else. It depended on like what I was in the mood of in that morning. That's what the CD that I would bring throughout the day. I would listen to it on the bus. I would listen to it on the way to school, on the way home. I would listen to it in the lunchroom. I would listen to it during study class. I would listen to it, you know what I mean? Like throughout the day. The Discman was like our thing. This was way before MP3s and all that. And DMX was always, at least once or twice a week, was always on rotation. So there's a memory. I'll tell you another memory. My school bus was one of the craziest school buses known to man. Because I was in a tech school, a vocational tech school. And we went to like 2, 3, 4 different towns. And I was on the bus for like an hour and 20 minutes. And we had some crazy kids on our bus. And the thing is that we had a lot of different age groups. We had kids that were all the way from like 6, 7 years old to like senior. Like we had like kindergartners on our bus. We had kindergartners on our bus all the way to seniors. We may even had daycare. I don't remember. I want to say like my cousin Tyler's age even. And what happened was that the girls in the back were the craziest. They were actually Catholic girls from Pope John. Wild girls. And they were lesbian too. And they put on quite a show. Let's just put it that way. But long story short, my neighbor was around, 6 or 7, whatever. So my neighbor came over and she said, listen, little Frankie's having some hard times. He's the little guy on the bus. Can, he gets dropped off with you. He gets picked up with you. We live next to each other. I could walk there in like 2 minutes. Can you sit with him? Keep an eye on him for the next 3 years or whatever, as long as you're on the bus. So I sat with him and I had him and I said, Frankie, sit with me. I got a job from your mother. I got to keep an eye on you. You're my responsibility. So nobody fucked with him because I'd knock you the fuck out. Bash your head in the window. I've done it a few times. Took one kid's eye out because he looked at him the wrong way. But, I mean, that's what my job was, to protect this kid. Because, I had a lot of rotten kids. You had a lot of older, rotten kids that had something to prove, Like, what are you going to do with a kindergartner, You'd be surprised. There was a lot of bullies on the bus. So, these 2 girls that were sitting in the back, they had a cassette tape. And my bus driver was a cool bus driver. She didn't give a shit. As long as she got her day done, she got you dropped off. She didn't give a shit if the bus was burning down. She would play whatever tape that they gave her to play through the bus ride. Soon as they got on, because I was the first to get on and first to get off. As soon as they got on, they gave her the tape to play, and it was a rap, gangster rap. I can remember specifically what was on the CD, what was on the cassette. I could tell you that it was Back That Ass Up, a Juvenile, a Ja Rule Murder, My Name Is by Eminem, Role Model by Eminem, The Real Slim Shady, Eminem and Dr. Dre, Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z, and there was like 3 or 4 DMX tracks. And it was funny too because I used to look at Frankie and I used to say, okay, because his mother wanted me to do this. when she found out what they were playing. Because I guess he went home and he told his mom, like the language, and this is what I remember of DMX. And like they would play like Stop Being Greedy, and they would play like the Rough Riders anthem and like Damien and all that. He's got that real distinct voice. So Frankie would jump when he would hear DMX. He would jump right out of his seat. And like the shotgun, and like, talk is cheap, motherfucker. He would know when that part was ready to come on, and I would look at him and I would say, "Get ready, Frankie," and he would go like this on the seat. And he would put both fingers in his ears, and he would hold them. And anytime swearing would come up, he would try to block his ears. He was the cutest kid. But that was a DMX moment. But I mean, sometimes they would come on with they used to mix it up. They used to play some rock, but sometimes they would come out of nowhere and they would play like the whole Jagged Little Pill by like Alanis Morissette. But sometimes they would come on and they would play a whole album of somebody. A lot of times it was DMX, the whole DMX album. They would get like a DMX kick. So it's funny because through the years on the bus, I remember they played a lot of DMX, a lot of early gangster rap. At least, in that era, like, I don't know, late 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, that era, But yeah, like I said, I met him. I got to do a meet and greet. We did in 2000. I got to see the Rough Riders. I got to see him solo. They had signings in Yonkers. I didn't go to some of them, but he was very, very big in his day. I mean, if you were into that genre, you knew who he was. It was like being into metal and knowing who Ozzy and Metallica was. You knew who DMX was. Oh, I had a friend in high school, and this actually happened years later when I was in college. I was working on a project with somebody, but I have a massive, massive collection of music, and I was known in high school. People actually used to, because I have a couple 100,000 CDs in my collection, like really. People would actually make a joke, and they would say, if Mary ever dies, could you leave me in your will of your music? I used to know all the local record owners around here. Every week, they would, on a Tuesday, I remember it was a Tuesday, would be music release day. They would already know what I would want, and they would put it aside for me. I usually would go there on a Tuesday, every Tuesday, and buy like 16, 20 albums. They would get me the limited editions. They would get me the box sets. Then any promos, like special posters, special T-shirts. They would throw stuff in. And, so I would have my friends come over, and they would always want to look through my binders. And I remember certain artists I would make specific binders for. One of them was Eminem. I think Metallica, Korn, but one of them was DMX. And I was like big on like going on the computer and downloading like rare files and burning them. I remember a CD burner had just come out, and I was going through CDs and burning them. And I had stuff for Eminem, but I had stuff for DMX that was never released. I'm talking mixtapes. I had Nas too, a lot of Jay-Z and Nas. CNN, Capone and Noriega, remember them? Project Pat, like a lot of those guys. I remember I was listening to a group called Dilated Peoples, and I would download like these mixtapes, and I had so many unreleased stuff from 50 Cent, forget it. I was listening to 50 Cent way before he had his first album, way before he had an official record deal, before even Eminem was into him. Because I could tell you a story. I used to go to my record store and they could never find 50 Cent. And they said, you always want us to find this guy 50 Cent. We can't find his CDs. How do we do we have to contact his label? Do we have to order him? Like, where do we get his stuff from? It was always so hard because I would listen to him and nobody knew who he was. But I mean, I had so many promotional stuff from DMX, like, and then my record store would know that I was so into him. They would get me special stuff from his label, Here's another story about DMX. Do you guys, my old schoolers out there that are old timers like me, do you remember the Def Jam games? Like on the GameCube and stuff? Do you remember Def Jam Vendetta? It was a fighting game where you were rappers. A certain fighter, a rapper. And I would always buy the Def Jam games because I was such a huge fan of playing as DMX. I'm trying to remember who was in that game, but man, I wish every day if I could have one franchise come back, it was that game. I would love a new Def Jam game. I don't know why those games. I don't understand why they died out. Like, how cool is to have a fighting game with hip hop stars, right? So other than DMX, it had Sean Paul, it had Snoop. I don't think Eminem ever was in it. I don't think Jay-Z ever was in it. Well, you know what? It was whoever was on Def Jam. And then I think they had like made up characters, and then they had like a story that you had to progress through. But as you played, you unlocked more rappers. I think DMX was one that you had to unlock. I don't think he was available at the start. But if you look it up, if you're a younger viewer out there, a Def Jam Vendetta, Fight for New York was one. What a game. And it was fun. I remember it was fun playing as Snoop. It was fun playing as Sean Paul, and it was fun playing as DMX. That's my tribute to DMX and the memories of DMX. What memories of DMX did you have? Were you a fan of him? Did you listen to him? I'm talking back in the day, back in the heyday, when he was when he was releasing his bangers, his hits. He was the shit in his day, man. And let me tell you something. He was top dog. Nobody could fuck with him. And he was one of the biggest. He was definitely one of the biggest. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me on this special tribute episode to DMX. Rest in peace. Rest in power. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Talking tunes with Sean. Until next time.